It is nearly the end of the year, and we couldn't think of a better holiday treat for everybody who listens to this podcast than to bring on one of the most exciting names right now in comics. By far, someone who has been that for many years, somebody who is absolutely cooking right now on Immortal Thor and plans to serve us up a holiday treat this Christmas with Metamorpho, and then give us an after Christmas gift in March with Absolute Green Lantern. We have with us right now the maestro behind some incredibly exciting books, Mr. Al Ewing. Al, how are you doing?
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm very good. That's compliments. Thank you. I'm doing all right. I'm getting ready for the. We have no tree. We have no decorations. This is all after. Um, I mean, we've got like an artifact that has no stand. I was talking before stream started about all of the junk, and this is definitely one of it. I need to. Uh, I mean, really what I should do is stand for the artificial Christmas tree. But this is, we're already off on a tangent. We're already I barely started talking. We're already off on a huge flying away from comics at a rate of knots.
That's okay. That's okay. We know when we have
Let you steer the ship back towards it.
when we have you on, we never know what direction it's going to go, but it's always a great time. And I got to tell you, our audience has been really excited to have you on here with us today. So
Thank you.
we're not gonna belabor it because we've got so many things to talk about with you. Um, And before we get too deeply into it, listeners, if you want to ask Al questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. We're going to do our thing with Al, and we'll splice some of your questions in as we go along. Super chats are open if you guys want to contribute. That'll put you at the front of the line. Make sure you like the video as well. Helps us out a lot. We appreciate you guys being here with us on this Saturday morning for us. It's not Saturday morning for everyone. Al, what's it like for you? Like midday, right?
Yeah, well, it's like mid-afternoon. Um, yeah, I'm gonna do this and then probably before the shop shut go out and go for, a little bit of Christmas shopping, a little bit of very late Christmas shopping.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
that's my day.
Very good. Well, if you guys want to do some Christmas shopping of your own, can I recommend books like We Only Find Them When They're Dead? One of my favorite indie books ever. It's so, so good. And that's Al Ewing. Can I recommend Immortal Thor, which is bonkers right now? So, so good.
Really good. It's one of my favorite Marvel books coming out
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into that shortly. I want to start with the DC stuff, though, because you've been doing Marvel work. I think I first discovered you at Marvel. It had to be about a decade ago now. I think the first Al Ewing book I ever read was New Avengers, I want to say.
Yeah, that was fairly early on. That wasn't the first one, but um yeah, that would have been around 20, I want to say around 2015.
Yeah,
So quite a while ago now. Good
yeah,
God, 9 years, nearly 10 years ago.
yeah. And
Um, well, it's been a while.
you're now making the transition to do some DC stuff. And we know you're doing Metamorpho. We know Absolute Green Lantern is coming. What motivated you to want to step away from Not that you're stepping away because you're still doing Immortal Thor, you still have all new Venom, but what motivated you to want to play in the DC sandbox now when you've been doing only Marvel for so many years?
I mean, the last time they re-upped my exclusive, it was for quite a long period. I was sort of sitting there for like a couple of years going like, I'm a little eager to stretch my legs now. And that's not sort of knocking Marvel exactly. It's more that, I was becoming more and more aware um the depth of the industry, the kind of obviously I writing superhero thing, it's one of my specialities. It's something that I've made a kind of reality in my career, and there was this whole other field to um, which I kind of wanted to do. So that was my motivation for kind of knocking the exclusive, the contract on the head. Well, obviously, I'm still very fond of the universe. I'm fond of the relationships I've made. Really, um, obviously, there's a lot. I kind of know how things work at Marvel. I've sort of dug myself a nice little working path, which so obviously continue the relationship. I'm happy, but I do want to sort of extend myself and explore new territories. But also, one thing I'm trying to do is you mentioned when you find them when they're dead earlier. I am trying to do more independent stuff because it's very easy when you're known as a Cape guy, and people offer you work in the Cape of the medium. Um, it's very easy to sort of say yes to stuff until your plate is, at which point your plate is very full. Less time to think about your own stuff. And this year, I have been coming to really, I guess, almost myself and nature and tendencies in order to add a little more space for the creator own stuff. So I'm trying to do well, but in the meantime, it's very Marvel and DC heavy for at least.
And I think that for longtime fans of yours, both of those are exciting ideas. The idea that you would be doing more creator owned stuff because we you only took one bite at the apple, and it
Yeah.
was incredible, but we didn't get, I feel like there's so much more you could do in that space. But then you're also going to DC where we've never really gotten to see you. So the idea, the prospect of you, we've seen what you've done at Marvel. The idea of you getting to have a run at DC with these characters is so tantalizing for fans of yours.
Sort of getting to do two things that I like doing a lot at DC, and one is sort of taking a look at a known quantity and sort of reimagining it to an extent. And that's Green Lantern. And obviously, the Absolute Universe is a place where we'll get to have a little fun. People, what Scott and Nick have been doing with Batman. People have been saying like ideas on Superman, Kay's ideas on Wonder Woman. So readers now have got I feel like they've got an idea of. I mean, if I say what to expect, that suggests that with they'll be able to predict, which is not the case. But just know that they can expect me
Sure.
and expect to sort of take these characters and kind of deliver new spins on them. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Green Lantern. I just delivered a script this week, which gets into an aspect of the Green Lantern mythos, respins it in a way. And I'm going to be having a sentence, I'm going to be very careful now to finish it without saying anything because part of my kind of sales techniques, I guess, part of how I've been careful to, is that like a lot of the joy comic, a lot of the thrill you'll get out of this comic is not knowing gonna happen until it's there on the page. And I feel like the more I drop hints, like the more I allow you to kind of know what's coming, the less you'll get that thrill of like turning the page, being kind of hit in the face. And we've had to do a little of that. We've had to do a very little of that just to sell it. So people in the know, people who are sort of who've been in, the announcement room at the convention, New York, and people have been online and sort of seen the preview pages, have sort of seen the Green Lantern of it. And hope raises further questions, but like, if you have managed to avoid seeing that big double spread, I almost urge you to continue avoiding seeing it so that when you pick up that issue on that page and you see that double spread and you see the Green Lantern for the first time, it'll hit you in the face the way it's meant to. And obviously, thank goodness not everybody is online. There'll be a lot of comic readers who kind of surprised by that. But like that was the original goal of that double spread, to like hit you. And obviously the more of people, the happier I'll be too. So, I am on that tightrope right now between uh getting everybody excited for this comic whilst giving absolutely nothing. It's fun. It's fun.
I mean, that when you spoke with Sean at your Comic-Con after Sean, found you and corralled you for an interview, it's got to be a little hard to talk about nothing because you don't want to give away stuff, but you also kind of have to sell the book too.
Yeah, you're sort of selling a feel and selling a tone, really. And the feel of the tone is like sort of cosmic horror, cosmic mystery, um, very much ordinary people dealing with the extraordinary. People who aren't strictly heroes dealing with the unknown. An interesting facet of the okay, to drop the Green Lantern. When I got into it, was very much post-crisis. In Marvel was introduced to me by, and I've told the story a bunch of times, but Marvel to me with the British Freaks for the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, which obviously begins with everybody standing in a line and saying their own names. Well, roughly the same time, around the time starting to get access to American comics, which would sort of you'd find them in the newsagents. Unlike there was like comic shop in existence that we knew about, and that was in London. So occasionally, as a treat, the train to London, and we'd go to Forbidden Planet. It was in a different place at the time, and we'd go down there and bring back. And one of the things he brought back, fresh from the shelves, was some Infinite Earths one, and that was the big introduction to DC. Oh, hey, here's the Secret Wars of DC. Here's where they blow everything up. I was getting to meet all of these characters. Oh, here's the man. He seems kind of a cool dude. He's dead. And then here's this John. I have no idea who any of these people are. Who's this Blue Beetle guy? He seems cool. It never even occurred to me that he was like from another universe and hadn't been seen in ages. It was, but coming out of that, we had the post-crisis world, which was just a bunch. So we got, Superman, the Man of Steel. Well, this is Superman. Here's who he is. I guess this is, all I know him from is like the Christopher Reeve movie. Here's his deal. Okay. So things like, I had a vague that like Lex Luthor was a bad guy in armored suit, but like now I was getting introduced. Oh, right, he's a business dude. Okay, that tracks. Those dudes are evil. The Flash, particularly, like reading those early Flash, and then getting into William S. Lowe's. Um, Again, enormous amounts of socialism in our country. But the post-crust DC. So sort of reading DC, from then pretty not as much as Marvel, but fairly consistently into the numbers. And like Grainer comes along to like steer this juggernaut back towards the point. When Carl Rayner the idea of like a hero who is chosen by accident by circumstance. Um, I was never really a big Carl guy until he turned up in Justice League. Idea of him. I like the idea that you could just be given this big responsibility and this big legacy and what to do with it. It's kind of, I guess, technically that's kind of a Marvel idea, but like I've always liked the idea that like ordinary people living ordinary lives, something happens and they have to step up and deal with it. That's kind of interesting to me than like, oh, we've unearthed for the perfect dude.
Hmm.
And it's like, that's less exciting to me. Because like if you're already the perfect dude, into which is why so many Hal stories have been about, oh, actually he's got issues and he's got problems and he's got ways that he also, and those are interesting stories. Um, or how this meandering tangent to absolute Green Lantern. You'll have to read the comic and find.
Well, I want to. I don't want to ask you too many questions because obviously you can't answer most of them
Yeah.
about the book. But before we move forward, there actually is a slight problem with your audio.
Oh God, is there? No, this is. Is it getting? Is it very crunchy? Is it like?
No, I can. I think it's like the noise suppression for Zoom is like cutting out something. So can you go into your
Oh,
audio
that's bad.
settings? No, we can fix it. Can you
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
into
Let me.
audio? There should be like a on. I don't know if you're on a computer. Audio settings, and then check there. Do you
Yeah.
see audio profile as an option?
Yeah, we've got Zoom background noise removal auto.
Can you set it to low?
Uh, yeah, can do. Done.
All right, just talk. Well, you could vamp for a bit.
Okay. Yep. Just. I don't know if that's like cars going
No,
by in the
okay.
background.
Can you is automatically adjust microphone volume turned on as well?
Let me check.
It should be right above that previous setting.
Oh, that is ticked.
All right,
Should
turn
I
that
be
off.
unticking that?
Yeah, untick that.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if that
How
does
about
it.
now? How's the level?
I think it's okay.
I'm
I don't
seeing it
know.
going up and down.
All right, so
Yeah, I
you're seeing
think
it. You're
that's
seeing it on your end.
okay. Is that
Sounds better. I think
Sounds
we're
good.
gonna.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll
we'll
see.
have to evaluate it throughout the conversation. But as far as because basically what Al just said is that the idea of a guy who's been chosen for this responsibility is not that exciting. You compare that to Peter Parker, where it's like this random
mm,
nerd who gets bit by a spider. He's not equipped for this beforehand. He's doted on by his aunt and uncle, and he has no physical abilities, but he's got this power now, and what's he gonna do with it? As opposed to a Green Lantern, where it's like you're the guy for the job, whether you think you are or not. Here you go. And so you're it sounds like you're saying that you took that concept and then flipped it with Absolute Green Lantern and kind of turn it on its head a
a
little
little
bit.
bit.
That is a very compelling idea, and I never connected that maybe that's a part of why, like, I love Green Lantern, but maybe that's why it doesn't impact me the same way as like the idea of Spider-Man, of the origin of Peter Parker. I can see that.
I mean, I think it's a relatability. Obviously, there are a certain number of people who have had that experience of like, okay, you know, you have graduated into the job, you have earned the job. We're choosing you for the mission. There are people who've had that experience. I think most people and I think everybody eventually for experience, which is we are gonna drop some problems. Fate in the universe is gonna drop some problems on you, or like there are problems coming down the pipe. You got to deal with them. Nobody else is gonna step up. Like everybody gets that to one degree or another. It's it comes with our failing bodies and getting older. Um, so I think a sort of metaphor for that. This is the this is the responsibility, or you're getting it now. Something in like if the metaphor is this is the responsibility, you might not think you're the person, but deep down you are inside, and from the off, it's like maybe that's a useful metaphor for some people. That's also good, but it's like I think there's value in the person has having to deal with it has no idea if they're the right person or
It
not. Because that really situation we'll find ourselves in sooner or later.
does that tie into the
It's
willpower
just
aspect of Green Lanterns a bit?
yeah, willpower's an interesting one. I really we do it does get a the idea of will as the controlling force, but like I really can't get into this.
I try to get you.
Um, what makes me go without really getting into like the nature of the green power and this kind of. I mean, I guess we'll do it, but it's sort of yeah. As it goes on, we sort of readers will learn with the characters how it'll work, and I don't really want to kind of take that away from people, but I think part of that for Green Lantern fans coming in is leaving you know how it works and then being surprised. Um, it'll hit differently on kind of two levels. The people who come in with like rules to Green Lantern will get that sort of hopefully delicious surprise of say actually it works very differently, but in certain ways it's the same. Um, but also people who've never read a Green Lantern comic in their lives, hopefully hopefully we're also speaking to them in terms of like, okay, so you're going to learn it with the characters. Um, willpower is mentioned. That's all I can say.
There you go. But I think that learning with the characters and kind of learning what this world is part of the fun of the Absolute Universe that we've seen so far. Like we all know who Batman is,
Yeah, no,
but Snyder's
I'm really
Absolute, yeah.
enjoying. I've got. I mean, I get to see everything. I think a couple of months before everything else, and I get to sort of hear these pitches and bits and bobs. So I get a little creepy, but like getting to read those issues, they're so good. I'm not just saying that to like big up the team. I am a big fan of Batman, and I would be if I wasn't involved at all. It's a really good comic.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm really enjoying like reading. I just got to look at I just got to look at issue 4, and that's another great one. They're all great.
Oh, the Gabriel Walter art on issue 4, I'm sure.
Yes, I was gonna. Yeah, that's it's so good. It's so good all the way through. Just
Super
wonderful,
exciting.
wonderful stuff.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
We've got a question from a listener that I want to get in here
Hey.
from Dwight Baldwin, who hit us with a 4.99 super chat, who says, "Hi Al, are we going to recognize the true name of Utgard Loki when it is revealed?"
I think when the theme of God Loki is discovered is when he becomes um So you probably won't be getting into that until it's time to have a more final confrontation than we have had with him.
Oh man.
I think that's when you're gonna learn the name. Because the thing is that the name, nobody can know the name, speak the name.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that there isn't a name, but it does mean that a name is a weakness. And I probably need to do some. I've been kicking down a road a little bit because I have, you know, a lot to write in the meantime and a lot of research to do on what I'm writing right now. But yeah, I'll definitely, when the time comes, when I see in the distance to learn the name, I'll be doing a lot of research and giving a lot of thought what the name is. And whether we hear it, because dramatically there's a case to be made for learning it, and there's a case to be made for the reader never learn. So you know, join me in 25 to 50 issues, and
Oh,
we'll see what I decided
In for the long run there.
in the future.
it's been
Yeah, I mean
so good.
Thank you. I'm really glad. I'm just in the middle of issue 22, and we've got a nice I don't want to say gimmick. We've got a device in that issue, which is going to be that's going to be a big fight against the outgods, but also it's going to be in a way that I don't think anyone has done before, and it involves a little interaction with the reader.
Mm.
Okay.
So
Those
yeah,
early,
so that'll be fun. That I won't. More than that, I won't reveal. But yeah, that's fun to write.
I always love when you push the bounds of what you can do within a comic. For me, those early issues of Immortal, where you're playing with memory, with story, with recollection, with the ability to change things based on how you might remember, but the remembrance being through the lens of a certain thing, that curdled my brain. I absolutely loved it, and it excels in being
I
able to
like
tell story.
playing with storytelling tools, and I like that. One of the earliest decisions I made with Immortal Thor was to have. Okay, well, since Loki is the storyteller in this, then be the narrator of the comic, and play with that, because the stuff. Because we've yet to, issue 18 has yet to drop. Issue 90, I think the next time he's actually in the comic, which is a wonderful issue. That was a wonderful issue together. That was a great issue to write. That's the one with all of the different guest artists, one page each. It's a Asgard issue. Um, yeah, so Loki's in that one. With some lovely Uh, and I got to see Lee again quite recently because it was Thought Bubble. Mm. So I got to say hi to him and have a chat. That's always a pleasure. I do always get to see Lee again and chat with him. And anytime we get to work together, it's a joy. Um, so that's great. And obviously, anytime anytime he gets to draw Loki, that's that's a little gift for the fans.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so that's fun.
Well, speaking of gifts,
But yeah,
Matt Fisher gifted us with a $50 super chat to say, all praise the work
wow.
of our savior, Al Ewing. Sir, I loved your Immortal Hulk. It made me a Hulk fan for the first time in 20 years. So glad you are crossing the pond. Tyler, stop spilling stuff.
I can't tell these people anything. Jeez.
Yeah. So lots of praise for you, Al.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you for a $50 compliment. That's extremely that's very complimentary. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, I'm always very glad when people like the work to the extent that they're now a fan of the character, um, whichever character that is, or whether, or really lifted their spirits, or help them in any other way. That is kind of the goal of this. It's what makes it's what makes it like, obviously I love doing this job. The fact that I haven't been able to go away from superheroes for like going on 10 or 11 years. I love superheroes in a sort of deep way. I get along with them. I have an affinity in a deep way. But what I really love is the readers. Um, and especially if uh, especially if they're readers who are sort of, you know, or um, or you'll get something out of the comic that helps them out. That's kind of what it's all about. But thank you so much for that. That's really kind of you to say. Thank you for the kind words. I will continue doing my best to write comics that people like. That's really all I can say to that.
That's kind of fascinating though, because in your position, you become a steward, so to speak, of the characters that you may have grown up loving yourself. Like the runs that you were reading when you were young then go on to sort of inform and inspire you to do and tell stories that will have that, presumably, hopefully, that same effect on people who come across them when you're writing them. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to do for the character. There's no character that I've ever written who I've not had a I've not at least tried to find a way of writing them. Um, even if like the point character is to be a big villain, to be hated.
Mm.
Even when the point of the character is to be hated, then I'll always try to kind of make them the most hateable version they can be. Make them, have them hateable in an interesting way, an exciting way. Um, and that extends to character you kick around a lot. A lot of something people say about me is that I don't. I love Iron Man. That's why I give him such a hard time. Uh, that's that I'm fascinated by Tiny. He's ridden by demons, and he's feeling that guilt, and he's in trouble. I think putting him in difficulty, giving him a hard, making things difficult for him, brings out the best as a character. So like that's my own man take. So every time it's always been about him struggling himself and kind of struggling against his guilt and his demons and his sorrows and the ghost of that's always with him, that's always driving. Um, and yeah, and it's the same with Thor. And I mean, it's like I gave the Hulk a terrible time. Absolutely very little happiness. And I've just been hitting again and again and again, and I will continue to do so. So that's how you get. You gotta to get. You've gotta give it a squeeze. You gotta put the pressure on. So there is that. So it's always there's never a character that I don't write out to love. And if I sort of don't write a character, that's because I haven't yet worked a way to give them that love. Like, for instance, the Punisher, I think I've written exactly once, and I sort of had to kind of. I remember my thing with the Punisher was that I did very terse. If you go back and read that issue of Comics Champions that the Punisher's in, everything, every sentence he says is 3 words long. He's because he's just a guest role, but I was like, he's very terse. He's very kind of bound up. He's very sort of um, and it's outlaw story, so I have to kind of question him and question the Punisher in that lens. But I didn't want to kind of just have the Punisher come in and just do any work on that character. So I was like, okay, how do I write that? He's very bound up. He's very, he's almost a machine of a man. He's like he's kind of, he's got this one-track mind. He doesn't think of the larger context of what he does. He's a bullet. He's a human bullet aimed in the direction he's aimed at. Uh, no, I don't think that's like a Punisher book. Um, it was enough for that guest appearance. So I mean, if they came to me and said, "Have you got ideas?" My response on that would depend on, am I getting any other work at the moment? Does my mortgage rely on me having a Punisher idea? The answer might be right now. The answer might be like, "Yeah, no, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have anything for the guy, or at least nothing you can print." Um, yeah, I don't think I've got that in me, but that's my failing, not the character's failing. I think. Um, every character, there's a cool story you can tell about them. You just have to find it,
Oh yeah.
And I guess to
and
segue,
you have to find it in yourself.
does your, I guess, history with a character like Metamorpho, is that something that you brought to it? It's like, oh, this is a character I really enjoy. Or was DC looking for a Metamorpho book at the time? Or it's just, no, you had an
I
idea and you
mean,
pitched it.
DC was definitely looking for a book because they kind of, as I told the story last time I was uh talking to you, it's like yeah, it was Cuba who suggested Metamorpho. It's like, oh, if you got a Metamorpho book in you, so like they definitely wanted a Metamorpho, or that wouldn't have been the pitch to me, the brief. Um, I think I delivered the Metamorpho pitch that I wanted to deliver based on my personal history with the character, which goes back all the way to, I guess personally, the first guy I ever read Metamorpho in was Batman and the Outsiders. Ah, that gorgeous Jim Aparo art. Ah, oh, so good. Um, Beautiful stuff. Full of nuclear fears. It was the 80s. But like, yeah, I remember like Metamorpho and that. But he was just kind of a side character, but an interesting. He had an interesting vibe. He had an interesting supporting character, doesn't he, occasionally. Who moved into like Justice League Europe. You kind of found a bit more, and I think it was that I kind of, and occasionally you'd sort of hear about. Because back in the day, this was a very hard book to find. It wasn't really found in the 50p. You'd find a lot of other kind of quite crazy and weird books. Um, but like 60s Metamorpho was sort of very highly priced, so you wouldn't kind of find it in the back issue. Um, you'd see little glimpses of it occasionally in, here and there. But picking down a copy, and obviously this was before the Age of Reprints. But once showcases came along, and somewhere in my showcase of Metamorpho, which I've just gone back to, I remember cover to cover, and just like really, just the level of it's the level of the kind of just the killer tone of it. I don't, the thing is, having experienced Metamorpho in the 80s, it was almost a revelation. The way they'd attempted to kind of do the sort of, because it's not, it's like, it's got the shape of the character who sort of, oh, has become a monster. It's gonna, but it's like ostensibly looking for a cure. But he's like the grooviest guy. He's like, he's got all of these girls falling over him. He's sort of, to begin with, he's in this sort of like Peter Pan situation where like all of these beautiful women. Then he gets into the full-on Archie Benny thing with like Element Girl and Sapphire, and that lasts a few issues. He, and he's constantly just turning himself into things and like kind of, he takes Sapphire out to the club, takes over, and Sapphire's like, "Oh, I thought we were going to dance, not to show off." And it's like, wait, hang on a second. I thought this guy was really miserable. He's constantly having this amazing time. He's the world's biggest celebrity. Um, and it's really weird how they take this thing. Oh yeah, Metamorpho is a freak, but he's the fab freak. Like, let your freak flag fly, kids. It's kind of you too fabulous in your own way, and use your freak powers not just for good, but also to be incredibly popular as well.
Almost like
It's like a really like
the reverse of the thing.
it's a yeah, he's a reverse thing. It's like it's a wild message. So like I really kind of get into this like because we're sort of bringing in Element Gal. Uh, I feel like you can't call it a grown like Element Girl. There's already an Element Woman who I don't want to kind of um I kind of found her and I was like, well, she's a guest star. But so now Urania is Element Gal, like that kind of rap. um, which is how we're kind of getting around that. But like, yeah, I'm sort of bringing her in, and it's almost the '80s thing. It's the opposite of I guess more of an early '90s thing, but very much it's like, oh, what would an element person be like? Oh, they'd be suicidal. They'd be like, it'd be terrible. It's like, well, comics is just but again, for a number of reasons, but like, yeah, it's no. Uh, what about Urania's having a great time? And like, is like the kind of temptation she offers to Metamorpho is like you could just really enjoy yourself. Um, you could be like, the ultimate superhero and just, all of these adventures Rex Mason had as like a kind of hunter and an archaeologist and this Indiana Jones type. That was you could have like an immortal, endless adventure, if you play it my way. Whereas, what Sapphire offers is like kind of settling down, kind of true love, like mortality, growing old with somebody. But it's like, there's a real push and pull here. It's like the whole kind of because like we had a really good Jeff did a really good story, some really good stories about Metamorpho, like grappling with needing the cure kind of thing. And that was very recent, good. And it's kind of almost from the jump, the cure is just, and it's like, I'm giving out any spoilers when I say that Simon Stagg is not serious about that cure and never has been. Wasn't in the 60s, he's not now. It's like, why would you? It's almost like a shared fantasy, that a white lie they just tell each other. Um, Rex can carry on dating Zephyr, and like, there's a bunch of sort of continuity issues that we will clear up in this book. I think until I came along, Simon's still technically dead. Um, we will be clearing all of that up. If you've seen some alive people who you think shouldn't be alive, we are going to we start mentioning that in issue 3. Uh, they were sort of that's just a kind of like, yeah, look, don't worry, you know, let's just to that. We're just going to nod to that briefly, and I think around issue 7 we're going to really get into that. But I want like one full arc of like, here's what we're doing. Here's the thing. Here's the full crazy characters, all alive again, all together again. And then later on we'll work out exactly how the continuity that's happened.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I don't even know if I've seen Metamorpho in a comic. Like off the top of my head, I can't recall when I've seen Metamorpho. So I have no affinity for the character at all. But I have an affinity for you and your work, so I'm gonna buy it. But what you just said allows me to find like the humanity in this character without me having read a single page. It's the idea of, hey, you might feel like you don't belong. You might feel like an outcast. Maybe you think you're a freak. But you could let that dominate you, or you could just have an awesome life. And there's something really human in that idea, and I love that, and I can't wait to see that play out in the story.
Acceptance almost.
That's
Yeah.
that's definitely in the background of it. It's like, I mean, it's one of my comedy books. It's a And I have a habit when I do, you know, gags and jokes, it's always with that sincerity, because the one style of humor, I'm no, I don't like it. I don't like, I sort of roll my eyes a little bit. It's the kind of wink at the reader
Mm.
style of humor, like, oh, doing tea for you right now. The work I'm putting in front of you now. Oh, it's trash. Don't take it seriously. We're gonna wink at you so you can like enjoy it ironically. It's pre-ironized. It's like I can't be doing with that. So like Metamore's 100% sincere, and that includes messages in it like, if you see like just kind of being an incredibly groovy spy, like saving the day all the time, and being, even though, acknowledging, because we keep all the stuff that Mark Waid put into World's Finest, where he sort of redid the origin of Metamorpho and included a whole bunch where Metamorpho has to spend months learning to pull himself together and be, and obviously Urania's gone through all of that as well. But it's another thing of like, well, I went through all this stuff, and yeah, now but I can, yeah, I can take that trauma and I could do just with it. I don't know. I'm sort of talking myself uh in message. I don't know. This is like, I need to kind of sit with this and sort of work out. Um, let's take it back to Rain as kind of a super groovy character, and we play her as such. Um,
There's a contrast there.
so
There's a dichotomy between the two, right? Like Urania is going to be
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that much more, for lack of a better word, depressive about her situation.
I mean, it's almost the opposite. It's like Urania's much about the situation.
Hmm.
Um, kind of play it as she she loves it. She's a kind of wouldn't change herself for the world. Uh, and it's any more than if there's some aspect that's like you have in the you could change and like but you've learned to accept grow to love it. Um, that's how a lot of people are. It's like yeah, but I think the difference between her and Rex is Rex is kind of a full-on like super spy hero. Rex has this supporting cast of kind of kooky fan family. Um, so I think that's the dichotomy. Rex has like all of these connect. I think the temptation your owner offers is like, oh, you could just come with me, just be a super spy and leave all these losers behind. And like deep down, Rex could never do that. Even Java, it's like these all this collection of weirdos is even Stan, they're kind of I don't know. I mean, this is all stuff that'll kind of read underneath like a layer of gags and laughs. So sort of people will kind of find and hopefully it's what they find.
I can't wait to see
Um,
the wacky chemicals that you know get get
yeah.
shoved in.
Oh, I have to look up a lot of. I have these bookmark tabs of all of the chemicals, including like solids, because only chemicals that are found in the human body, and then you have kind of alloys and compounds can be built out of those.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
How you doing
like a
chemistry?
big thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I yeah, majored in the arts. Um, but it's like a kind one of the things, and I was quite proud when I worked this out, was that using only chemicals found in the human body, you can take a glow stick. And there is a point where yourself into a glow stick to do a funky metamorpho. And this is the kind of thing. This is stuff that Steve absolutely loved it when I did. Oh, let's bring back Metamorpho's test, where he turns himself into a test tube and shakes himself around. Uh, oh, and there was one thing on. We were doing an interview, like a Zoom interview. DC wanted me to do a lot of Zoom interviews, which I slightly with Marvel's approach of getting me to do email interviews. Um, with the extent that a lot of people are now being introduced to how much I ramble. All of the times I say basically, yeah, it's people are being like getting a real introduction as to how I actually talk. But on one of these Zoom interviews, I mentioned like, looking up all of the other element people. Did you know there's an element dog now? It's like I have to draw. He just came out. He was like, "No, I'm drawing element dog," and I was like, "Okay, well, now we're doing element dog." And like, so yeah, five is the element dog issue. It's like, yeah, let's bring in Element Woman, let's bring in Element Dog, all the Element people. So yeah, you heard it here first. And this fits in nicely with the arc I was doing. There was definitely that was originally gonna be like there was definitely an issue where it's like, oh, let's bring in all of the Element people, and now I know of more Element people. So like, but yeah, we're gonna have an issue with a team. So that'll be fun. People who have been asking, where are Mom and Dog? Where's the new? Um, there we go. We have Steve cover already. It's going to be fun.
Beautiful. Love to hear it. All the element people are here. Dan
Mm.
Trudeau with the 5 spot says, I wish Ramona Fradden was around to see this book along with Metamorpho being in the new Superman movie. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that as well. I wish Bob Haney was still around. But yeah, like I will say, it was a tonic to see Ramona and like still drawing till the end of her life, still doing like cartoons. You'd boot up social media and you think a new one from her. Um, and that was wonderful seeing that. Like, because so many artists, they sort of, when they get to that advanced stage, one of the things they go see to draw, and that's always a huge tragedy. So,
Hmm.
it was good that like she was still doing. I want to say as recently as like when did she pass? It was not long at all, was it?
No, I remember her having art that came out within the last year and a half, maybe.
Like 5. Yeah, yeah.
No, is it?
It looks like it
It's definitely.
was this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, February, the
Time
beginning of the
time is
year.
time is weird soup, so it's hard.
Wow.
Let's see it. My goodness. Well, that makes it even more. I mean, it would have been, you know, the then the pressure would have been on Anthony Kerrigan to. I got that right, haven't I? It would have been on him to like deliver a Ramona worthy performance, but like, and now he can get, but like, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Great film. I feel like I think James Gunn's got the deliver us a really good Superman film.
I hope so.
I really enjoyed the spectacle of Man of Steel. Um, I think it was one of the better Jarrells and one of Jonathan Kent's I've ever seen. Um, like there was a lot of sort of almost objectivist stuff that found its way in that. But like I don't know, I kind of do remember like watching the big slam bang, let's crush through a billion buildings thing and go like, oh man, this is visually spectacular, but also this is some sweet for a Superman film. Having already like gone like Superman would go and rescue his dad from that tornado. Yeah,
You're gonna set Sean off by
fool
talking about
me.
Man of Steel.
I'm desperate to talk about Man of Steel. I love that movie.
We have to cut him off. This is
I
part of
can
the show. Yeah.
see. No, I grew up on the John Byrne Man of Steel. So like, and I don't think John Byrne did the best. I thought I'm a fan of the Morrison Superman, man, and obviously between those two, there were like Superman. Um, but I remember when Superman people. It's it's not complete to me that like Superman would kill a dude. I feel like in this movie in a new con, it's a bit like, well, that's a bit of a statement of intent and maybe not a great intent. Uh, I don't know. I prefer a Superman who finds other ways to deal with things rather than, oh, let's put Superman in a box and then we'll really use it snapping a neck. It's like, okay, yeah, you used your super neck snapping ability. I prefer super ventriloquism, but you have that power little used. Um, your little super. Yeah. I don't know. I it will be a better Superman film than that one. That is my judgment as somebody, non-connected with Hollywood at all.
Have
I
you
mean, I these films in well enough. They're all sort of I go and see them when I can. Recently, not so much because the cinema now it's a special event. You're really you got to make sure you're uh, up to date, and you're kind of like you got to mask up for it. You got to kind of do all this stuff. So I do go to the cinema a lot less than I did. Uh, so now I see the superhero films more on streaming. Uh, but
fair?
they always get at least 3 stars from me. They're always a good time. Nice fun time at the cinema.
Well, Spiral Storm dropped $10 on the stream and says, Al, your new Avengers slash US Avengers run is my favorite work of yours. How did you go about thinking of the premise of it and adding characters like Squirrel Girl and Songbird?
Right. Well, um, this is getting back to a story I don't often tell because and but yeah, for you get this new content. Basically, Tom pitched a lot in the Cape Comics world. It's not pitching an idea for a character; it's an editor saying, "What would you do with?" And like following on from Mighty Avengers, which had been successful, Tom Brevoort was like, "Well, we've got a couple of Avengers books we think you'd do pretty well with, and one of them is like Avengers idea, and that became Ultimates, and the other is something with New Avengers." And my pitch for that was, okay, well then they got to be New Avengers. They got to be like people who Avengers before. Um, or who have mostly not been Avengers. I feel like Hawkeye was the one old Avenger on the new Avengers.
Hmm.
But it was very much based on up from Jonathan with his kind of his, I want to think of what's the word for there's only two of them. It's his two-hander with which led to this. But it also involved Roberto da Costa coming out of his shell and I remember that. But also, part of the ways I wanted to build it was I wanted to do it where it was a new style of avenging, a new kind of, really kind of, would be like, these would all be like totally new Avengers, and it would be a contract. The old guard. Now, at the same time, as I recall, Mark's concept for the main Avengers book was these are all new people,
Oh,
and I wasn't willing to give up like Avengers team, so I had them also be new people. So like that aspect of the book got sort of down a little bit, but so it was more like this things. So they were a little bit kind of they weren't trusted, they weren't sort of, but kind of in a different way to how it was like. I guess if I'd but yeah, part of that was like, okay, well, here's a Songbird finally joined the Avengers. Because you'll remember Avengers Forever. And then maybe she hop from here to the actual Avengers down the line, and that ended up happening. But then again, I never got an opportunity in New Avengers to introduce what was it, the Living Galaxy, whatever she comes Avengers Forever, haven't been in the middle of a fight with. I never got it because there was just no room. There's no room for a Living Galaxy in the plot. That was an ultimate. villain. But like, see now, if I'd had a little of both books, I'd have had them team up. And then I'd have vanished during that story, and that would have been very neat. Never mind. Who was the other character? Who was the
Oh,
other
Squirrel
character?
Girl.
Yeah, that was like I was enjoying what Ryan was doing with Squirrel Girl. It was a bit of a challenge to kind of okay, what would I do with that character that's not just what Ryan's doing, but is in the spirit of what I'm doing. And it took a little while, I think, to her voice exactly. But like that was an example of like, oh, it's the greatest superhero of all time. Is like a whole shtick. Not on the Avengers. Let's put her on Roberto da Costa's New Avengers. That's exactly the person he would recruit. Um, but I feel like I think when I got to the gag about the squirrel getting the rats to unionize, um, that was my best squirrel girl joke. That was when I felt I finally, I kind of got there. But even so, I mean, it's the thing is, I love everything that Ryan does. I'm one of his fans. You'll see, I've been a fan of his since Dinosaur Comics. We have very different voices. We have very different sense of humor, I think. Oh, there's a knock on the door. Right, hold me. I'm
No
gonna hang
worries.
on. I see more of my house than um because I have to go to the door and somebody has a package.
It's that time of the
Sorry.
year. Yeah, I get it.
Perfect. Live delivery. I love it.
Yeah, no, somebody so-
That shirt is
Hey, are you
killing
from
me.
135? This is for you. Oh, no problem, no problem. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.
Al, where did you get this Spider-Man Batman shirt?
I've actually got the yeah. Sorry, that's in reverse on the camera. Oh, yeah, so yeah, everybody got to look at exactly how cluttered my house is at the minute. It's incredibly cluttered. All of this will be not spring cleaned, but ready for relatives to come and spend Christmas cleaned.
Al, we are
That's
all
next week's job.
comic book readers, which means that every one of our houses
Yeah.
is cluttered. I can't show you anything. I've got a green screen up.
You're not even using
It-
the green screen aspect of it.
exactly. This is normal. There's no concern. What is concerning to me though is that your shirt is driving me
Yes.
mental. It says Spider-Man, but it's very clearly Batman's insignia. This is bugging me out.
There
It's the
is.
nerd rage
I
shirt.
am trying to remember because I did actually buy some new shirts from these people, so I'm trying to remember if they still sell this one. I don't think they sell it in this form as a kind of baseball shirt. They do sell it as a t-shirt. I'm trying to remember the name of them because they also did a great shirt with like Doctor Doom on it, except like goo is bleeding out of his eyes.
Oh my
I
god.
think
Which
I
you have to
already
see to
I think I
believe.
already found it. Yeah, I can send it to you later,
Um,
Sean.
Hang on, let me. I'm probably gonna have to.
There's a
Let
worse
me.
one that says Superman in the 90s Spider-Man font, but has
Oh,
Batman on top of it.
oh my
So
god,
there are
dude.
nerd rage shirts, Sean. I'll point you in the right direction. I got you.
That is just that is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I bought one of these recently, but I cannot remember, and I can't remember the name of the shirt either. I don't know if it's called like Bat Spider-Man or something. This is. Hang on, if I write T-shirt, um,
I love this.
oh man, I pre-ordered some. Oh no, that's an advert. That's an advert to pre-order shirt.
I was gonna say that's a typical
T-shirt
comic book fan, not realizing you pre-ordered stuff. Been there.
is. Man, I have no
Is it
idea. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to.
I'll find it. I'll find it.
I can't help you, but yeah. Spider-Man and the Batman logo. There is a company that does these shirts. They do a lot of stuff. It's mostly more kind of I guess sort of heavy metal type shirts, but for some reason I also do this. But
Is that your?
I ran
Go ahead.
I
Sorry.
ran into them at the Thor Bubble convention a couple of years ago, and that's where I bought this. And yeah, basically, I bought a couple of them, and now I'm getting a couple more of them just because it's such a good shirt. I mean, I guess what I could do is take this off and look at the label.
That's
Um,
okay.
but yeah, there's a risk of um, you get to see more of me than your viewers could
Yeah,
possibly pay to.
we're not.
That's a different stream. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
Yeah,
a
that's a
very
different stream.
different stream. But
Um,
go ahead.
so yeah, no, I'm done. I
I
can't help you with the shit.
It's okay. You know what? In fact, I don't want to know where I could purchase that shirt because I don't want to be tempted, and I would hate myself for buying a shirt that says Spider-Man but has a freaking Batman logo on it. I can't. I can't.
I have a shirt that says Star Trek in the Star Wars font. So
Oh my God. Oh,
I mean, I'm really saving this for like an occasion where I'm at a convention and I'm on a DC panel and on a Marvel panel on the same day.
that's smart.
yes.
And this
Yeah.
shirt will work for both of those.
Yes.
So,
Oh my goodness. So I wanted to talk to you about Immortal Thor because Immortal Thor has been incredible. You know, when we spoke to you before it even started, we spoke to you when it was in the early days. Now we're I think this 18th issue, 17th, I have it right here. Issue 17 just dropped. It was awesome.
thank you.
I just caught up last night on this series and it's been absolutely phenomenal. It's got the Immortal tag, which makes people think about obviously Immortal Hulk. And Immortal Hulk, when it was, this many issues in, was already on a lot of people's radars as like, oh, there's something to this. This is something. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think I might even be more on the hook for Immortal Thor because you're playing with so many like crazy elements. The stuff that you've done with Roxxon and Dario Agger and the Enchantress, like if it was just that stuff, it would still be a really fun, solid run of Thor. But then there's the Utgard gods stuff. Then there's the wheel. Then there's what Loki's up to and their machinations. There are so many things happening in this story on top of the subtextual elements. It's like Thor is this old god whose life has been so long that he doesn't even remember all of his life. It's committed to books and stories, but those can be manipulated, right? It's like, is your destiny, is your story already told in your life? Or do you have agency? Can you circumvent the wheel? Can you move beyond that and tell your own narrative? Like, there's just so much deep shit in here. And, like, I'm obsessed with this story. Like, why are you telling this story? From you, from your life, why are you doing this? What is making you bring this stuff to the forefront?
Oh boy. I, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things. I guess personally, there's a lot of it is just the desire the kind of acknowledgement that like Immortal Hulk kind of hit as big as it did for people, and it's sort of the acknowledgement that I don't know if I have that in me again, and the only response to that thought is to attempt to equal it or surpass it. So like personally, there's a lot of, but in terms of like the themes of this, because this is about, I mean, it's got similar themes. It's got a lot of sort of personal stuff. It is about death. It is about mortality. It's a, it's sort of dealing with I mean, a lot of the stuff in Immortal Hulk was sort of dealing with stuff that was happening in my own life, and so is this. But like from time has moved on. I'm sort of I've got different problems. I've got different there's different things going on, but also like the big questions of sort of like faith, I guess belief. I mean, I feel like the more you try to put this stuff into words, the less justice you can really do to it, because it's sort of no, because you're kind of talking about like there's so many levels to this. It's like you kind of I do have this kind of big grand story in mind. I can talk about some of the emerging themes,
Please.
like things that I didn't think it was about to begin with, but it has now. It turns out it's also about this, and one of them is like power and the use of power. Um, like that's going to be it's power, it's the use of power, it's like what one person can do, what is it right to do, can you um what things you struggle against, what things you accept. uh yeah, I mean, power is a big one, like, because I was not prepared for how, and this was something I found out on the Xbox as well. Um, I guess because I've been, writing, when you're writing the Hulk, the one thing about the Hulk is that he is the strongest person. That's just a basic fact. It's like, and also at the end of that, at the end of the day, that strength is not useful for solving any of his real problems. Um, and I feel like Hulk fans sort of accept this. I find with a lot of superhero fans in general, and I don't know if this is because I've been looking in the wrong places until recently, but I feel like with a lot of superhero fans in general, there's a sort of a feeling that what makes a character good is who they can beat up,
Mhm.
which is troubling to me because I don't think um, I don't believe that a sort of unquestioning worship of strength has been good for the world in general over the past couple of decades, or the century before that. Uh, so I'm a little. I think from the beginning, when I've been looking at Thor, I've been trying to think of him as okay. What does he look like in his wisdom? It's like we know. Obviously, he's really powerful. He's like the Superman figure at Marvel. He's like the one of the most, in terms of who can lift, who's the strongest. That's Hulk. In terms of like who's the most super, it's probably Thor.
Mhm.
But it's like, okay, what about his wisdom? What about his? So like, I'm trying to do things like when he has to, um, when sort of Buri turns up and goes like, okay, well, you know, if you want if you want this, you're going to have to fight me for it. And it's sort of in a very kind of testing way. It's like, Thor wins by telling a joke, essentially, by like, by telling a riddle, which is like very much one of the dumbest riddles, very much a dad joke. And it's because his dad was Odin, who was like the son of Buri. And of course, Buri already knows the joke. And it's like, oh well, no, this is good. It's not so much that Thor has defeated him with, but by going to a riddle rather than brute force. Like Thor has kind of learned the right lessons
Mm.
to be, to be given the gift by Murray. It's sort of, and it's that kind of thing. I want to explore his wisdom. I want to kind of, and that includes making mistakes. Like he sort of, having said that he would trust Loki even as an enemy, he is now banished Loki. He's sort of, oh, actually, I said this, but I was not capable of acting to that standard, because Loki just pissed me off too much. Um, which, fair, but also it's like, yeah, that was a mistake. And like trusting the Enchantress so much was a mistake, but by trusting her, it has led to Magni coming
Oh,
back into his
oh
life,
my God,
which,
dude.
is a good thing. So it's like it's all these different things, and these are all things that, like, it was like when I was running Storm, I was throwing a lot at her, which, like, cannot, you know, power cannot solve these problems. You can't like Omega your way out of everything. You can't Mjolnir your way out of everything. You can't sort of, if you love Thor only because of his power, you do not love Thor. Um, and that is part of and maybe you love the original North Star. I can't speak for the original North Star. Like a lot of people have a lot of ideas about that, and I don't want to. That is an actual religion for some people, and I don't want to like step on that. But like Marvel's Thor, um, yeah, this is someone who has greater things than power, and that's what I want to showcase.
I think you are, and I think it's being done in a way that I haven't seen before. I haven't read every Thor run, but a lot of times the focus is on power. And I like the fact that this run is saying there's more to Thor than you know. He's also very wise. He's lived a very long time. He's got a great heart. He really, really cares about people. All of those things are going to be put to the test. Every single thing that you know about Thor and some that you don't are going to be put to the test. And all the characters that you're playing with are characters who've been essential to Thor, and you're casting them in the same roles, but putting them through new trials. Like, for example, in the most recent issue, you mentioned it. We get the return of Magni, one of Thor's sons. But is that a good thing? Like when I was reading it, I'm like, anything that comes from the Enchantress is not
Mm,
good. So
yeah,
even though he now has access to his son again, is that another pitfall? Was getting rid of Loki, which I would always
yeah.
say it's great to get rid of Loki,
I
was that a
will.
good thing or was it not a good? Like
Yeah,
there's so many things that are being dominoes that you're setting up, and it's fun to watch.
I will say that like there are some dominoes kind of um there are dominoes for like the the short term, there are dominoes for the medium term. There are some very long term dominoes,
Oh yeah.
and the return of Magni is one of them. Like I've been saying to Will, I think we're gonna have to go over 50 on this one.
Yeah.
Um like there's a and I mean, that might lead, we'll I've got to have some discussions about like what that looks like from the Marvel point of view. But definitely the story. Uh, there's easily 50 issues in it. It's like I've mapped out at least 50 issues, and I'm thinking might need an extra five, which let's make it a round number. So at the moment, I think we're looking at least 60, but 75 is also a nice number.
Yes, it is. What about
And
100?
it's, well, I don't know. I don't think there's enough there for 100. There's a very much a sort of three-act structure
Sure.
in my head here. And we are coming towards the end of Act One. Um, and really, I think once you see issue 19, you'll start to get the merest hints about the shape of Act Two and maybe Act Three. But a lot of prophecies have been made, a lot of, you know, things have been said in stone. There's a lot of recurring words. Like pretty much every issue at some point, people are mentioning that there are some forces to which even the gods must bow. This is um, that's not an accident. It's that's like a storm cloud on the horizon coming closer and closer. Um, it's so be aware that stuff is about to happen. But what stuff I can possibly comment, except there are going to be some storytelling, fun storytelling choices and fun. I've already spoiled that. I've already spoiled it in future issues. There are going to be some fun little storytelling things that we're doing. But
Well, I wanted to, when we read the issue, the Roxxon Thor special and that whole storyline, it was very clear to me that all of that was tongue in cheek, and it was, or at least it felt like it was playing about the idea that movie Thor and the Thor that people think of conventionally is a bit of a barrel chested kind of Chad, for lack of a better term, right?
I mean, a
And
little bit of that.
it felt like you were taking that version of Thor through the Roxxon Thor and kind of comparing it to the comic Thor and saying, well, the comic Thor is a lot deeper than that. The comic book version of Thor has a lot more going on than that, and there's a rich history there. And you even got Greg Land to do that issue, which I thought was also again kind of
Yeah.
fun, kind of tongue in cheek. Was there any like resistance on Marvel's part to those concepts, or were they on
I
board
mean,
with what you were?
quite the reverse. I will say, I like Greg. I like working with Greg. He had a good time on this. He thought it was really funny, which touched me.
Yes.
He had a good time working on this, and I really liked what he did. The I thought the when his version of the Thor track, he did a wonderful job on it, but it looked so beautiful. He's incapable of drawing an ugly vehicle. Um, but it was nice. It was good to kind of, because I've worked with Greg before, and it was good. It was nice to work with him again, one more time. In terms of, I mean, this is partly kind of basically Marvel originally. The Roxxon Thor bit was going to be a sort of 10-page backup thing. Um, And then basically Marvel liked the idea so much that they were like, "Oh, will you do this as like a special issue?" And I was like, "Okay." And then we can slot it between 9 and 10, and we can end 9 with Thor reading the comic, and we can start 10 with Thor having read this comic. Oh, and then I can do a nice little horror beat because if I don't, I was thinking while I was writing it's like, well, this is very funny, and I'm having a lot of fun, and it's a lot of laughs, but we need to have a little bit of a horror beat in there. In order to so it lands, because otherwise it's too tonally dissonant. We need to kind of sell that actually, yeah, we're all having a good laugh, and we're all taking the opportunity to put the boot in. But we need to sell that actually this is not great. This is not great for Thor. And also it's like, let's deal with the fact that we're doing this with the full permission of a big company, and everything I've ever done has been through kind of the kind permission of a corporation. Let's look that in the face.
Mm.
Let's look that in the horrible bull skull. Um, and it's like, and people did kind of react to that with like, oh, well, all this is being said, but it's all being said. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. I'm not. I'm horrifically compromised. I'm not. Don't look at me as like you're kind of. I'm sort of by UK standards, I'm sort of barely left of centre. Don't look at me like, or rather, I was barely left of centre in the '80s, and I just haven't changed at all. Which is like, but the Overton window has gone like, all the way to the right. So now I look like whatever in response to that. But it's yeah, basically it's like yeah, don't. I'm a superhero writer. Everything everything I write in superhero books is always going to be through the lens of superheroes, which is, we kind of touched on it earlier. It's based on a kind of stories of vigilantes who sort of, you know, are more often than not, the one great, great person, the one great man, in a world of not so great people. And, half of them are from the 60s. So they're all like cis hetero white dudes. They're all, you know, it's, I'm a compromised guy and a compromised medium in a compromised love film. What do you want from me? Um, and it's like, yeah, I can look that in the face for a page, and you can take that page and flash up in your social media. Be aware that even that is, you know, um, I mean, this is, uh, you can perform actions that are more active than reading a comic or writing a comic.
Sure.
You can contribute to like mutual aid in your area. You can get involved in your community with sort of um, stuff. And I do a bit of that. I'm not the most active in my community by any means. I'm not the biggest giver to mutual aid by any means. I don't not the My organizational skills are non-existent. Don't look at me to help you out with this. I'm like, uh, I can write to my MP. That's about the limit. Um, you know, um, I can carry a box. That's.
Well, people took it seriously. Some people had
I'm glad people did. There was a message there. It was partly a desire to like at least look this stuff in the face. And it's better to have sort of looked that aspect of things in the face than not. And to just go like, laughing at the jokes is not in itself praxis.
right,
You know, you
right,
gotta you gotta do a bit more than that.
sure.
What
Now,
that is, I don't know.
you've talked about how you can see this run going 50 beyond 50 issues, and I think that's phenomenal. And I think most people who've been reading comics for a while, they hear a number like that and they go, "Oh, that's great," because long runs like that are sort of, they're going the way of the dodo to some degree. You still see them, but they're very infrequent relative to what you might have seen in prior decades. Is that something that, like, do you do that because in part you want to be able to tell these long epic stories that feel like they kind of stand alongside some of those earlier titans? And do you think that it's a problem in the industry today that we don't often get to see what creative teams have to say for the long haul with these characters?
I think it is a bit of a problem that we are kind of in the age of um, the 5 issue ongoing, the kind of 10 issue ongoing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. You know, it's sort of I don't get to see the kind of behind the scenes on like why these decisions are made. I think there are definitely things that could. I think the longer a run is, the better word of mouth it gets. Now sometimes, that's not enough to counteract the sales, but like I don't know, we're sort of in a point in the these are kind of bigger questions that I'm sort of comfortable like I've definitely had thoughts in an indie slash creator owned space on how to get the comic in front of more people, how to sort of sell it better, how to do right by retailers better, how I would do this as myself. I can't really speak on behalf of like any of the big companies I work for. It's sort of, for one thing, it's not my job to. Um, but yeah, I think definitely longer runs are better. And one of the reasons I titled the Immortal Thor, I gave it the Immortal title, was as part of the pitch, to basically say, listen, I'm going to need a long run on this. I know it's Thor. I know, like, I'm probably going to get a long run on it, but I want to kind of bake in the need for like a decent number of issues right at the start of this.
Right.
And and partly it's sort of to sell a particular tone, to sell a particular type of book. Um, but yeah, basically, there is an aspect of like I remember the Simonson run. It's a huge inspiration to me on
Oh
Thor.
yeah. Oh yeah.
One of my biggest tonally, it's a huge. It's one of the reasons I brought back the Thor bubbles was because I cannot imagine a Thor who does not monologue to himself, who does not think. And a I think there's a qualitative difference to interior monologue via thought balloon and interior monologue via caption. Interior monologue via caption, it's broken up. It's kind of very much a narrative counterpoint. Interior monologue via thought balloon is much more in the moment. It's inside the space. It's not in a contrast to the space or a context to it. Like with a caption monologue, um, you can have, I don't know, Lois Lane like thinks her thoughts. She's not on the page at all. It's Superman rescuing the space shuttle. But what Lois is thinking is the counterpoint to that action. So, she's thinking about like how great Superman is at rescuing space shuttles, blah, blah. You have this, I'm pulling all that out of my head. Um, Now, in order for an interior monologue via a thought balloon, you have to stay with the character. You it's very intimate. You have to be you're literally in the character's head. You have to kind of be with them. So unless they're sort of doing something, you're almost demanding of yourself like a quiet moment. Uh, and so Thor does a lot of thinking like on the hoof while in the middle of battle, while flying from one place to another. But also in that issue one, I kind of I did want him to have that sort of almost a soliloquy, a kind of like this soliloquy where you're like and you're staying with him and you're seeing his emotions and you're seeing this quite subtle action from him. And that's something thought balloons demand, and it's something that like Walt Simonson, in an age where narrative captions had not yet become the style.
Mm.
Simonson was much more working with the omniscient narrator. but even that was in the tone of like someone narrating a mythology, somebody narrating an Edda. Um, yeah, it was very. So yeah, very much kind of my take on that tone. Yeah, I do kind of miss long runs. I think in this day and age, you've got like, and this is something I've sort of done from the start, which is that like having begun a story, I like to continue it. Um, so and more through, entirely through like more through luck than through judgment. I've sort of built this kind of interior universe inside the Marvel universe where like all
Sure.
of these characters kind of know each other and connect with each other. But like that's entirely by like, I wanna, if I wanna see the Blue Marvel again. I wanna see how he's doing since the last time I wrote him. You know, since then we've seen like we had that Photon miniseries where like Monica just said, "Oh, Adam's not in the picture anymore."
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so they split up. How's Adam doing with that? I'm interested in. Um, let's see how he's doing. Uh, never do I think like, oh no, I'm going to contradict that. I'll be like, yeah, okay, yes, and they split
Right.
up. What's going on now? Well, presumably Taya Galactus' mum is still like hanging around in his house. Is that going anywhere? Are they just roommates? What's going on now? Um, so it's always this thing. So I tend to do things that have the shape of long runs, but take place over like multiple very short runs.
Sure.
Um, but with something like Thor, and I mean with the Hulk, I was expecting like 18 issues. I thought, okay, I'll be 18 issues, and then there was somebody new on the book. And then it was like, no, this is doing very well. You've got as long as, and I was like, okay, arbitrarily, I'm going to decide 50 issues. And then, by the 50th issue, it kind of, I was ready to leave. Um,
But if
with,
Immortal Hulk had been like, if you didn't get the opportunity and the time to develop that story in the pages, get it in front of
mm,
readers, get the opportunity to sell us on it through the work, and you got canned 6, 8, 10, 12 issues in, it doesn't become Immortal Hulk. And that's what bothers me. Like,
I had, there is an element of this. I did have plans for if it did get canned at issue 5, I did have
right.
plans. I was like, I know how to end it at issue 5. I know how to end at issue 10. I know how to end it at like issue 15. I was really like, and it was only after, I think what did it was like, I mean, we saw how well it was doing. And then I think what really did it was like the issue that sold like absolute gangbusters, I think was issue 15. And that it doesn't have the Avengers guest starring. It's not one of the early issues. The
Right.
main point of that issue is a it's long. Um, it's basically like a long environmental rant from the Hulk, and it's like, oh, I guess this is what readers want to read. No, but that's not really what I got from it. But it was sort of like, I can think of nothing about this issue that's making it sell so well. Um,
Word of mouth.
we've got something here, and I I felt like my duty as the writer was to like not rest on those laurels, but to kind of push things. There's definitely a version of Immortal Hulk where we don't sell quite so well, and I take less risks.
Mm.
Um, like things like issue 25, um, the whole back half of it really was kind of very much came from this thing of like, okay, if I can do anything, what can I do?
Sure.
Yeah.
But
If we can do anything, what can we do?
can I just say
Uh,
to listeners who aren't as initiated, for an issue 15 of an ongoing series to sell better than the ones that came before it is almost unheard of. That doesn't happen. Normally, you see issue one will do whatever, great numbers, and then it's just downhill from there. Rarely do you see a book sell better the longer it goes in modern comics. So that's a testament to how much of a juggernaut this book was for those of you who weren't there. And then, of course, notoriously, it beat Batman in the sales, which put DC on their heels and kind of made them go, wait a second, what's happening with Batman? But it also made Marvel say, oh, we have something here with this Immortal Hulk. Let's let Al and the team do what they're going to do and stand back. And that was the best decision that Marvel could have made. And I just want to see that decision get made more often because we could miss out on Immortal Hulks if we don't let creators cook.
I mean, it's yeah, it's like nothing's ever that simple. But it was like I did have a lot of freedom to kind of. I think the one bit of pushback I got was originally I was thinking like issue 25 would be several issues and kind of going further and further into the future. But like I was basically sort of Tom gave a note which was like, I don't know, I think you can do it in one. And I was like, I think I can do it in one, but I think it needs to be a big one. Oh, we have issue 25 coming up. Oh, we can do this. We can do an extra sized one and we can write it like it's a new wave SF novel and we can do something completely different to the entire tone that's been done before. Um, and yeah, and there's a sort of I have a sort of similar idea for like issue 25 of Immortal Thor in terms of tone. It'll be a little more connected. But it'll be I do want to do that big issue 25 that is a kind of turning point and you know flexes some muscles. But yeah, see, I'm setting, people are going to invent issue 25 in their heads now. But yeah, no, I've got some ideas, I've got some thoughts.
I like how I can see you working through it as you're
Yeah,
you're
yeah, you can
talking.
see the cogs turning.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like, I think I don't know. Immortal Hulk. It was. I have a complicated relationship with that book, and my time on it emotionally. It's not. I don't recall it as a fun time in my life, but I do acknowledge like both how successful it was, how much other people got out of it, readers, how and how much it pretty much like I guess in a sense maybe saved my career. I went from being a very sort of niche cult guy to a guy that people wanted to hear more from.
Mm.
Um, and all of these things are true at once. So yeah, my relationship with the book is complicated. And I think my relationship with Immortal Thor is a lot. So far, it's a lot kind of purer, in that I'm in a kind of a happier place. But like, yeah, I'm still very, very grateful to everybody who read and loved Immortal Thor and who spread that word of mouth, and everybody behind the scenes who like gave me the chances and sort of let me have as much rope as they let me have. Um, so that's kind of all I can say about that.
Sure. Absolutely. We're coming to the end of our conversation with Al. If you guys want to get some last minute questions
Yeah, I'm
in,
happy to answer questions.
yeah, chat, feel free to get some last minute questions in here. Um,
I
Go
have
ahead,
a I
Mark.
have a I have a quick question just to go back to and kind of linger on your thought there of thought balloons versus the captions, like the mechanics of that. Do you think about
Hmm.
writing that differently between those two because they serve in your mind two different functions?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky because they can serve the same function. Like I feel like with there's a thing captions can do very well that thought bubbles can't do so well. And it's a thing that I saw Matt Fraction do it, and I pretty much my immediate thought was to like, I'm gonna have a go at that myself. And I've done this a lot. I'm usually fairly open about like the shoulders of the giants whose shoulders I stand on. Like that moment in that first issue of Hulk where you turn the page and you get a double spread, and then you get another one closer up. Um, which, I allowed myself to do because we had 30 pages to do. But that was inspired by a thing that Tom King did in an issue of his Batman, which was the Joker Riddler War, where you have a double page spread of, I think, I don't think it's Knock Knock Who's There. I think it's a cool, but it is a call and response. The Riddler does the opening thing. If it is Knock Knock Who's There, then I owe Tom King even more because that obviously burrowed very deep. Because I use that as like a recurring phrase. But like it's the Riddler coming in, and then you turn a page, and it's a double spread of the Joker waiting for him, and that hit very hard. And I was like, I remember thinking, God, the audacity of that! Like the 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 chutzpah, the man, the boldness of that. I was just so impressed, and I just thought, well, I can't rip that off. Having been shown this tool, how could I yes and? How could I sort of do my own version of that? What could I do with this tool, having been shown it? Um, and it's like I am a believer that like when somebody invents a tool, it's fair game. Like
Mm.
the 9 panel grid, somebody was the first person to do the 9 panel grid. Somebody was the first person to do the 16 panel grid. Um, there was a thing I did a lot of. I don't think I'm the first person to do this or the last person to do this, but it's an idea I kind of came by organically. I didn't see somebody else do it and then nick it. But to have a 7 panel grid based on a 9 panel grid structure, so you have and the central panel is a widey.
Hmm.
That's something I like doing a lot, and alternating where the big panel is. But like that's a structure I like going back to again. Again, it's like a kind of hybrid between the 9 panel grid and a more open grid. But like all of these things. But the thing I saw Matt Fraction do, which I had a go at, was he in an issue of Iron Man, he had Iron Man Iron Man's thoughts and captions. His thought response to being hit and being in a lot of pain and kind of um, because of the staccato nature of captions, you could really, really sell that interior monologue to being in a fight, um, to being in pain. Uh, and I tried it. I tried it with Iron Man. I tried it with a couple of other places. It really works. Thought bubbles are less good for that, I think. I think if you have somebody thinking, ow, doesn't work so well, doesn't look so good, doesn't really, just the shape of the balloon, the kind of, And I don't know if you can do. There's a thing I do a lot of, and I don't know if I came up with this or if I saw it elsewhere. If I did come up with this, it's my one great invention, but I don't think I did. But that's to have a speech balloon with just three dots in it
Oh, sure.
to signify a pause. I do that all the time. Can't do that in the thought balloon. It's the wrong shape.
Hmm.
Maybe you could.
You could do like that.
Um,
There's that like it feels almost like uh four symbols. I've seen it where it just kind of like a pause moment, like almost like an exclamation, I think.
oh, the four symbols. Do you mean the four skulls?
The little they're like curved. I don't actually know what they
Oh,
are.
hang on, like a little asterisk, but the middle of
Almost.
it's missing.
Yes, yes.
I don't
Like a
know.
loading
Because
almost.
I don't know the name of it. I constantly want to do it, but I don't know the name of it. And it's like, and there's an asterisk, but there's not the asterisk with the center of it missing. So it's just
Yes.
6 lines. Unless you're using a specific comic book font that's been created for the purpose of comic books, you know, it's really hard to tell the letter to do that because the name is really kind of unknown. It's one of those things like the DeLuca effect, where unless the person you're writing for knows the name of the DeLuca effect and knows what the DeLuca effect is, and I don't even know if I've got that name right. It's the thing where you've got multiple people in the same
Yeah,
scene.
Kelly
It's
Thompson.
multiple instances of the same guy in the same scene.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, basically all of these tools. So much of comics is tools and the use of tools. Um, for storytelling. And it's like so much of the joy of creating comics is exploring the tools and inventing the uses of tools oh my big contribution to the choose your own adventure comic format was most of your Deadpool was borrowed from Diceman. Diceman is the big innovator in the world of choose your own adventure comics. It's between Diceman and Ryan North. Ryan North has done a bunch of choose your own adventure comics, and he always does them. I haven't read the new Star Trek one, but I read his Squirrel Go one, and he did that in a different way. And there's another fella, I think, Jason Shiga. I cannot remember his name. He did Demon. Um, he did Phone. He's an indie writer slash artist who did a very important choose your own adventure comic, and I can't remember the name of it, and it's going to haunt me. Answer in the comments, please, and also his name.
Is it
Um,
Jason Shiga? Is that it?
that's the one. That's the
Okay.
one. I did get the name right. Yeah, and I forget what the name of the choose your own adventure comic book was called, but apparently, yeah, and I've never picked it up, but apparently it was. It's one of the greats in the field. My innovation was because You Are Deadpool is a mini series. You can read it out of order. You can play it out of order.
Oh.
It was not properly play tested. I held my hands up. That was me. I treated it like a standard comic, as in, you write the damn thing, you get it out the door. I did not give it time to go through it and play test. In particular, the combat mechanics. It is punishingly difficult. It is like it's difficult on the level that the computer games of my youth were difficult. The ones which, people wrote in their own bedrooms. Um, yeah, so if you pick up your Deadpool, I beg of you, please cheat. On every combat, please cheat. Please assume you have every inventory item I ask you for. The inventory system is also balked and punishingly difficult. You're meant to be like, oh my God, you're meant to be picking up any object that's smaller than a bread box is. In Britain, bread boxes are very large, um, for one thing. In America, they're very small, apparently. Uh, Also, I didn't do like an outline of these objects. I didn't specify these. So readers just I'll ask them, do you have an object? And it's like, well, no, because that's not how I read comics. I'm not meant to be poring over the power for small, and then deciding which of my 3 inventory slots. Why did I only give 3 inventory slots? Oh my god, it's horrifically difficult. That was where I fell down. However, as a first attempt at a choose your own adventure comic, I think it's got a lot going for it. Definitely started me on a path I've attempted to be on since I did a little choose your own adventure Carnage 10-pager, which was based on a mechanic where you could not win it because you cannot, yeah, because Carnage won't let you win.
Right.
So you have like hero points and you lose them every time. You allow Carnage to do something bad. There's no way to get to the end with enough hero points to win. So page 10 is no, I think it's page 9 is your great hero ending. You'll never see it. You'll never get to it. You'll read it because you have to, but you'll never get to the end. You'll never get to it. The only ending you'll ever get is the bad ending because it's Carnage. How could it be otherwise? And then before all this, I did a Judge Dredd Choose Your Own Adventure, and that's probably my best of the lot because you can read it, you can play it as a Choose Your Own Adventure, you can hop around in it. It's only choices. It doesn't have combat mechanics or inventory mechanics or anything like that. It's just choices. So there isn't a difficulty level. You can hop around in it and like get to the end of the story, or you can read it front to back, and that is Judge Dredd's viewpoint of the situation. So from Judge Dredd's viewpoint, this perp is like, he keeps killing this perp and the perp keeps coming back, and it's like, what is going on here? And it turns out the perp has been hit by a kind of an exploding dimensional machine, which has turned him into a living choose your own adventure. It was also a Christmas story, so I had a lot of space to play with. So yeah, I don't know how we got onto this topic, but yeah, the mechanics of comics, the tools of comics. I'm definitely going to do more choose your own adventure stuff in the future. It's one of my favorite things. If I had a choice as to what I would be remembered for in comics, it would be my choose your own adventure work, but I have to do a lot more choose your own adventure work to make that happen. So that is my mission. That is the mission ahead.
That's awesome. I got to get that Judge Dredd. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Oh, it's fun. It's in one of the year-end specials. I forget which one exactly, but if you go on the 2000E website, there's two things. If you go on, there's a website called Barney. If you type in Barney 2000 AD to any search engine, obviously you'll get 200 AI nonsense, garbled stupidity things. But you'll also get a website called Barney, which will tell you every issue of 2000 AD I've ever been in, every Judge Dredd story I've ever written, and it'll do that for all 2000 AD creators. But you can look through all of the Christmas specials until you find a story called Choose Your Own Xmas. And then you can go to the 2000 AD website and you can buy that comic and you can read it. And please do. It's got John Higgins on art. Love working with John. John Higgins, the colorist of Watchmen.
Okay.
Most people know him for that. But you should know him for his art because he's one of the 2008 greats and one of the great artists. And I was at his wedding, which is, and I really should look him up because I've not spoken to him in a while.
Well, we were supposed to be getting through
questions.
a few listener questions.
Questions. I'll answer at least a couple of questions.
We'll rapid fire. We'll just get them out to you.
Oh, yeah.
We'll hit a couple here. So Pete Collins, this is a big one. He says, "You're given the ability to make one creative change to a story you've written. What would you change?"
There's a heavy answer to this, which you can probably guess. I won't. I'll do a light answer.
Yeah.
I mean, the light answer and the heavy answer is the same, really, but I'll do the light version of it, which is actually no. I'll tell you what. This is a light version. It's a true version. Um, I would not have intimated so strongly that in Agent of Asgard, I would have not have been so in love with Doctor Who at the time that I intimated that like he went through a regeneration.
Hmm.
I implied that quite strongly. It was the wrong. I tried to sort of de-imply it in, a couple of issues later. It was the wrong move. I should have just had them come back having spent, a billion years in the Bardo, gone through the ego death part. That's fine, but like implying that this was a new version of Loki, I think that was the wrong move for a lot of reasons. Um, yeah, and also I mean, look, we were all really into Doctor Who at the time. I was into Doctor Who as a kid. Um, we were all really we were really excited by Doctor Who at the time. I was reading a lot of Elizabeth Sandifer at the time, who is an academic who specializes in Doctor Who, and she has a series. If you're a Doctor Who fan, she has a series of books called TARDIS Eruditorium, which you can, I think, buy from her website. You can buy them probably. There's probably a route like Gumtree or somewhere that's like the best way to get these that gets her the most money. Um, they are available on Kindle. Um, yeah, if you're a Doctor Who fan at all, she has been an inspiration as an academic, and yeah, definitely look her up. She's got a website, Editorial Press. Always good stuff and new good stuff coming out. But yeah, I was heavily inspired by Doctor Who at the time. It was a big time for Doctor Who. I think if I had it all to do again, I'd have a pinch less Doctor Who in the mix. It would have been, I think that was a little too much Doctor Who in the soup. So yeah, just do without that.
Okay.
That's the biggie, I think. Um, yeah.
Sean, mind if I pick one out here?
Please.
Yeah. So, Absolute Overthinkers asks, which DC character would you next like to write if given the opportunity after or in addition to Metamorpho and Absolute Green Lantern?
Ooh, this is always a tough question because the dark underbelly of that question is whose job would you like to take?
Right.
Um,
Yep.
Obviously, I don't know. It'd be fun to write. It's all fun to write the biggies. Like, I've probably got a Superman story in me. I've probably got a Batman story in me. I feel like you can mention those two without taking somebody's job, but also that's kind of an easy answer, isn't it? That's kind of like everybody wants to write Superman. Everybody wants to write Batman. We all want to pay off our mortgages. Um, but like in terms of, I'm gonna go with I'd like to do a bit more with Starman. I got a bit of a taste for Starman writing that little Starman story. So I'd like to do a bit more with him. I'm generally that area of DC, the kind of the 70s. Alternatively, go right back into like the DC Golden Age and pull out some real weirdos and like do something with that. Do a reworking of like a really old Golden Age character. Because I feel like that's the kind of thing where I mean the answer you want to give to this question is always the Jack Kirby answer, which is like, what do you got? Um, but also like just give me the weird book. And I mean at the time, even the weirdest book was selling like a zillion. So, like, they say, oh, well, Jimmy Olsen's Superman's pal. that's fallen off lately, Jack. What do you want to do with that? And it's like, I'm going to get into like genetics and like hippies and, you know, the newsboy legion from the 1940s. That's like, that is the kind of, that's what the inspiration ought to be. So yeah, I mean, if Tom King hadn't just done Danger Street, which I thoroughly enjoyed, I probably would pick, you know, one of that crew, one of the first issue special crew. But they've all been done lately, so it's like, okay, well, I can't do that. But yeah, somebody from that wheelhouse, somebody from the DC Explosion,
Mm.
you know, just like shoot somebody at me who's like, I know, please, sorry, let me paraphrase. Please don't shoot somebody at me on Blue Sky. This is for editors only. Editors only. Please shoot somebody at me. Readers, please don't shoot anybody at me. Please never shoot an idea at me um, on Blue Sky, or I'll block you. I block anybody who gives me weird vibes. That's how it rolls down there.
As you should.
Yeah, that's how it rolls. That's how I can feel free to be a little looser on there than I was on Twitter. But like, yeah, also if you ever ask me a question about the cosmic hierarchy, I'll probably block you. If you ever express your thoughts about the cosmic hierarchy, I'll probably block you.
Oh my goodness. Now I want to know what that is.
Oh, you've just been
Yeah,
blocking out, Sean.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Just like, I mean, you know, I won't block you if you like tell me I'm cool. You're allowed to do that,
Oh, that's good.
unless you get really weird about it.
This is what social media is great for. Yeah.
That person earlier who told me I was the savior. I'll block you for that. That will earn you a block. That's a weird vibe. Yeah, no, I'll just block people on like that's flimsiest of pretexts. And it's so freeing. Everyone should roll that way. Everybody should do that. It's oh God, I can just follow. I'm just following so many like cool people and like and just blocking like anybody who even tries to talk to me. And that's like that's kind of that's super freeing. Everybody should do that.
That's what I've been doing lately,
But
actually. Yeah.
I will answer your questions in the form of podcasts like this one. So yeah, let's get another one.
Beautiful. We'll give you one more so we can let you get back to blocking people.
No, no, yeah, it's true. I am gonna
um,
just slam the door after this and just become a recluse again.
Shadow Walker says, "Do you worry if you have to be in a similar headspace as with Immortal Hulk to capture the same success with Immortal Thor?"
Um, yeah, yes and no. On the one hand, obviously, I do wanna capture the same success. In another sense, I know that I can't. Um, the best I can hope for is to capture a different success. Um, and in the same way, I can't be the same person I was when I wrote Immortal Hulk. You know, certain situations in my life have gotten better. Certain situations in my life have gotten worse. Certain situations. Oh God, the word situation is getting. Don't give me a job on the Jersey Shore. The certain situations in my life have gotten better and then gotten worse. It's like you know, no man can step into the same river twice. It's one of those deals. So like, and that's kind of freeing, knowing that I am incapable of doing it again, and that wanting to do it again is kind of, it's the desire to prove that I can still even make the attempt. Um, so I think this is one of those things where I'm sort of, and you know, the industry has changed. The kind of you know, I've kind of come onto Thor from a particular set of circumstances, which is, you know, obviously the tragedy of what happened with Donnie. Um, and it was like Will had sort of mentioned like, oh, hey, once Donnie's done, how do you feel about Thor? I might want you to pitch, keep that in mind. And that came along a lot sooner than either of us thought it would. Um, Whereas with Hulk, it was much more like, I had to go through the whole Bake Off thing. I had to go through the whole process. I had to be like, no, I'm the guy, and let me tell you why. Um, but part of that was from, if I hadn't been writing an Avengers book at the time, if that Avengers book hadn't, been segueing into the Jason Aaron Avengers, so needed to come to an end in a big multi-writer, um, super fun story that also, to give that story a bit of juice, or bring back the Hulk. If the Hulk hadn't been dead, if the Hulk hadn't already been resurrected twice, you know, so many ifs went into being in the right place at the right time with the right idea. Um, with a bunch of opportunities that, like, having built the right kind of, whoa, my screen's suddenly gone very bright. I think that's compensating. I think it's compensating for something. Yeah, with the right, I'm not sure what that could have been. Just it suddenly realized, oh, it's dark outside. Um, yeah, it's like so much went exactly how it needed to go for Immortal Hulk to be a success. I cannot, to the extent that, like, I can say that I took advantage of opportunities that were, you know, in my path. There's a limited extent to which I can give myself credit. Um, I can definitely say that I took the best advantage of the opportunities that were there. Immortal Thor, that Thor book, the only reason it's called Immortal at all is because, well, A, I've got more to say on the themes. B, I've already contradicted myself, that's more than one reason. B, I want to pitch that type of book to editorial and to the readers. C, I want to pitch that type of book to myself, because the alternative is to just lie down in the long grass and die. It's like, if having, and it's not the wrong word to say recovered from doing Immortal Hulk, and seeing that people are still talking about it, they're still kind of remembering me in those terms, and unless I do better than that, that book is going to be on my tombstone. Do I want that or not? And on the one hand, well, a lot of readers got a lot out of that book. A lot of, the people that I am very fond of got a lot out of that book. Through that book, I was able to create friendships. I met Crystal Fraser through that book. It's that book has been very good to me. It's also not been it's also been very bad to me. It's also like it put me through some stuff. So yeah, it's a big question. Like, can I do it again? It's the question at the end of Stephen King's Misery. Can you do it again? Can you get back to that place? Do you have it in you? It's that, or I wander off and I just seal myself into, I kind of buy the coffin and just climb into it. Get it out of the way. It's like I have no idea, but I gotta try. Well, what else am I gonna do? It's like, but also there's a part of me that's like, people are saying, okay, what's the third one gonna be? And I'm like, oh man, that's a question. Like, because I'm enjoying myself a lot more on Thor, and I'm really like I've got a great relationship with Martine. I hope a good relationship with Jan. I know like I make her draw a lot of crazy shit. Um, Sorry, can I swear on this
Oh
podcast?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Good. Um, but like no, I know like I'm having a good time in that book, but it's like again, it's the book that is the hardest work out of anything, except Absolute Green Lantern. That's another one of those. I'm doing two of these for two different companies. Um, so yeah, it is like okay, there's both the question of can I do it again, and there's the question of how many times do I want to go into this and like before I need to take a break and do some fun stuff. And that's a question that like I see a lot from Kieran actually, and that like I know in his newsletters he sort of because now he's doing the power fantasy, which recommendation.
Tremendous.
You gotta read that. Like if you're not reading it, you've got to. It's number one on everybody's best of the year lists. Well, like three or four that I've seen, and it's like yeah, no wonder. Like we've all read it. It's well, I'm in issue four. That was just like I was like I kind of I talked to him and I was like, listen, it's really good, but issue four, that took it to another level. This is the first time I'm really kind of grokking the concept of it. I'm really kind of like, yeah, now I see it. Now I'm getting it. I got it intellectually. Now I'm getting it viscerally.
Yeah.
Um, oh, so good. You have to be reading that. But I think he said in a newsletter, like he'd been sort of, it took him a while to get to the place to do another one of those. And it's like, yeah, and it takes me a while to get to a place. And also it's like I think I need to get to a place where I'm doing one of those that's not about a character somebody else owns.
Mm.
And obviously I've got like 50 issues from Immortal Thor to get through first, on top of what I've already, yeah, 50 more issues from Immortal Thor to get through first. But like I think, yeah, if you want to know what the third Immortal book is, I don't know, maybe it's somebody I invented. I
That's
don't know.
exciting.
But like yeah, and that's a possibility that's only come to me now while talking to you. But yeah, maybe that's it. And then maybe that's how it goes. Maybe I do three of them, and then I can lay down and die. But it's like, or go into pure comedy comics and choose your
Mhm.
own adventure stuff. But like, a nice cozy retirement. But like, yeah, you got to do it again. If you do something, you got to do it again at least once. It's the experimental thing. It's like, was it a fluke or is it replicable? And if it's not replicable, I don't know what that says about me. So I got to try. You know, it's all of the insecurities of the writer.
Well, oh, sorry, go
No. I'm done. That was my conclusion. That was my in conclusion.
Absolutely. That was an incredible answer that I think works perfectly as a conclusion
Mm,
to what has been an incredible conversation. I want to say, Al, personally, your work is some of the best in comics, and
thank
I
you.
hope that you don't undersell what you're contributing, the talent that you have. Yes, I think a lot of stuff had to go right for Immortal
Mm.
Hulk to be what it was, but you had to be the man in the chair, and you
I
had to
mean,
be the one.
I do have a level of confidence in my own abilities. I don't think you can do this job if you don't have a level of confidence in your own abilities. I feel like if you don't have a level of confidence in what you do, you will be weeded out. Like
Mm.
that's maybe even the first thing that you need. And that doesn't stop you going like, oh God, this is terrible. I'm a fraud.
Sure.
It doesn't stop you doing that, but at a certain level, there comes a point where you've got to be able to say yourself, no, I'm good at this. This is the thing I'm good at. I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. And you have to be able to say that to yourself for like every storytelling choice that you make. So I do have that in me. Um, I don't undersell. I don't have that thing in my head that's sort of in pretty much all other aspects of my life. I'm constantly questioning myself, but there is a sort of hardcore in my writing where it's like, no, that's the right decision. That's the right storytelling decision. Do it. Fight for it. And the other thing is that there are a lot of people, and I am very, very grateful for all of these people, and I will remain grateful until the day I die for these people, who have come up to me in person, um, occasionally online. This is one of the things I won't block you for, but like, they've come up to me in person, and they've sort of occasionally people thank me for stuff that I have put on the page. And I think this happens to a lot of people in this line of work, and it's what makes this line of work worth doing. I mentioned that earlier. Um, I'm constantly humbled by um, my LGBT readership, like my trans readership. Like, before I kind of came out, when I was still questioning, it was like, um, I was where some people were, and either we made that journey together, or I was able to make that journey first, and hearing, and any time I've heard that, it just makes my day. It makes my whole week. Um, it, so if you've ever said that to me, then thank you. It means more than you could possibly know. Um, so there's always that, and also if you are struggling right now, given the everything that's happening, then you know I guess, stay alive in spite to spite all the assholes, all the scumbags. Stay alive, you to spite them. And like, if there are resources that can help you do that. I felt like in America, like, Trans Lifeline. Um, I picked that up. Sorry, this has gone to a very heavy place.
It's okay.
Um,
It's okay.
but like, yeah, I guess that's the big one. Like, find your people, find any. There are resources that can help. They're out there. Like, if a lot of the people I'm following are people who are going through stuff and who can help with stuff. Just through their, I don't know. This is kind of getting into a place where it's like I don't have like a list of like numbers and resources in my head
Sure. Yeah.
to hand, but like, uh, please stay with us. Is all I've got to say about that.
It's about building community
Sorry.
and finding community. And I think
Yeah,
comics can
yes.
help build
Find
that
your people.
community.
Find
Yeah.
your people. Find your community.
Yeah.
That is also it. Yeah. Sorry to get so heavy. And while I was leaving, um,
That's okay. I think that that's a great message. I think we all agree with that message. And quite frankly, part of what our joy is in getting to do what we do here is being able to build a community that is welcoming of all people. The only requirement, I guess, to be a part of our community is to love comics. And that can look like any kind of person. So
yeah,
to me,
yeah.
that's all that matters.
And it can be your gateway to being a better person as well.
Yes,
You know,
man.
if
Oh,
you feel
Al,
like,
you don't know how true that is.
yeah, if you feel like you've got a ways to go, yeah, just everybody's into comics, and you can be a better person anyway.
You can be a better person than you are. I love that as the final word from Al Ewing. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we can have you back on to chat once Absolute comes out and we can discuss that, Absolute Green Lantern, in more detail. But, sir, you've been absolutely killing it. We thank you. We love you. We love your work. We love your passion. Appreciate you being so honest on this platform. And we can't wait to see more of what you put out. So thank you. Thank you.
I mean, anytime, anytime, anytime you want me back, anytime. Always good to talk to you folks.
Beautiful. We will be back here in just a moment. We're going to say goodbye to Al off camera. So stick around. We'll be back in 2 minutes or less. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute, bud.
Just talking.
No, I didn't hear you. Yeah.
That was an incredible conversation. Al is tremendous, just so honest and insightful and funny and clever. Like I always think whenever we get to talk to Al Ewing, it's always for me like sitting under the learning tree and just listening to this sort of master talk about the craft. I love that shit. I love it.
It's funny when he talks, you can see. It's cool that we do a visual podcast because you can see it working in his head
Yeah.
as it's going on, which I guess you would lose in the audio version. So apologies. Maybe check out YouTube. But listening to it, I have that same reaction. I'm thinking, I'm chewing things over, and it's an exercise really hearing Al speak, because I'm listening, but I'm also thinking, and I'm also creating when I'm hearing what he says. So, man, it's fun.
Yeah, I love that stuff. He's just an intelligent person about these things.
Thoughtful, very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Gavin Gidry in the chat asks, but who's on his Mount Rushmore? What do you think of Diamond?
Gavin, listen, I we have a certain level of comfortability with you because we're pals, we're close, and Al is becoming a pal, but sometimes you gotta walk the line a little bit. Plus, I don't know what'll happen if I ask Al Ewing his top five, his Mount Rushmore of anything. That could be the whole show.
Deliberation.
We'll be learning about the chemical construct that completes the stone to make Mount Rushmore.
What kind of granite versus
Yeah.
calcium
Yeah.
ironite?
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. And thank you guys for hanging out with us for all that. 2 hours we did, which is incredible. Al is always like ready to go, always, ready to chat, and doesn't really seem like it doesn't necessarily seem to care how long we're talking.
No, it's
as
not a
long as we're
question. Yeah.
yeah. It just
He was
doesn't
in the Zoom call before I was.
matter. That is
Chit chatting,
Yeah.
chit chatting away. We went full circle on tools somehow.
right. So we're gonna put that in the rearview mirror because we've almost been doing this for 3 hours and we've got lives to lead. But there are some things that we do need to talk about. Some urgent affairs. One of them, the most urgent affair, is that we are calling the book club poll because it hasn't been up for quite a week yet, but it is overwhelmingly swamped. Like there's no doubt about the winner.
Swamp.
It's East of West.
Oh,
The Image 2010's book club winner is East of West handedly. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna read half of it. We're just gonna read like the first what is it, four
It's
trades?
45 pages issues, so probably the first 3 trades, I would guess, if that my math is right on that one. Maybe 4.
Yeah, we'll announce the official amount.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking it's gonna be 4. I gotta order them. I don't have that book in
yeah.
any format.
Half might be there's like the collected editions, the trades. There's 10, so probably 5. It's 5 issues each, probably then.
That
Something along
tracks.
those
That
lines.
tracks. Yeah.
Certain oversized here and there.
Sure. And all those oversized collected versions are sold out. So
Damn.
I'm gonna have to buy trades. I haven't bought trades in forever.
Ugh. I've seen your shelves. You are a fan of the deluxe hardcover and the omnibus.
Yeah, I got you covered, Tyler. Whenever a Humble Bundle does some kind of like image sale or whatever,
Oh, you got
I have
that?
yeah. So I think I have up to like 8. I want to say I have to check
I
back.
might want to pick this up physically though, so we'll see. Typically for the book clubs, I try to get the books that we talk about.
Sure.
Witching Hour was a hard one, so I didn't get that one. But yeah,
Absolute Overthinker says, "Let's fucking go. I have the full physical collection. I haven't touched it. This will be the first time I join in on the book club. How do I stay in unison with everybody? When do we meet, etc.?" Okay, good questions. So, the way it works is, in this case, the end of the month. It's normally Tuesday, but that's not going to work because Tuesday's the last day of the year. So, we're going to do Monday the 30th for the book club. So, Monday the 30th of December, we will gather and we will review, discuss, and dissect East of West, the first half. So the first 5 trades is what we're going to go over. The Discord server is a place where you guys can gather, congregate, talk about the book amongst yourselves week over week as we get closer to that official conversation where we will all be together. But there's no requirement other than that. Show up on the day. Come have the conversation. Be a part of it. It's going to be a great time.
You can
And-
follow.
yeah.
You could follow the server events as well, in case you need notifications. They always go off, and they're always scheduled for all the stuff that we have, unless we change something.
Yeah, so I can't wait. It's gonna be super fun. Everybody who's tuning in now who missed the interview, definitely watch it back. I think it was very, very, very good. I think you guys should definitely check it out for sure.
Absolute Overthinker. So Monday the 30th, what time? 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Eastern.
Eastern. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry.
Mandy's a geek says great interview, such a legend. I agree. Al Ewing is a legend at this point.
Luna mentioning East of West is on Global Comics, so
There you go.
that's an option as well.
Nice.
Very cool. Very, very cool. The other thing we need to talk about is the fact that this podcast is supported by you all. And if you enjoy the 2-hour interviews that we get to do with creators, if you enjoy all the stuff that we've been doing here over the last few months, patreon.com/thecomicspals is the best way to support us because that's the only place that the support is coming from. That and, of course, these streams. So it is my honor, my duty, and my privilege to thank the people who are contributing to us every single month via Patreon. So I want to give a special shout out to our Pals vs. Legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie the Best Boy, and the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumble. And I also want to thank Pals vs. members, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manistorm, Slow Flow Dameron, Christian Uncaged, Always Laughing, The Spear of Justice, Izzy's Issues, The Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback, Cashaback, Pete, The Dreamweaver Collins, Matthew Malice Price, James Just Jamming Jones, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight, the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, the Living Blade, Boss Deer, the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Todd Tremor Butler, David Doomsday, David Melendez Doria, Cameron Torn Thornton, Steve Swarm Canaris, Brian Rage Redmond, Panda V Panda, Mad Max, the Absolute Overthinker, and Blur Jose. Thank you all so much.
I see why you split it in half.
What?
I see why you split that in half for the show lately. That's a lot. It's a huge amount of people. Appreciate it.
It is. And those are just the people who are at the tiers where they're getting shout outs. We've got a lot of people on the Patreon, and I'm endlessly thankful for that. And I also want to thank Kobe, who joined us a day ago. Thank you to Kobe. Your origin is impending. We'll get those all done before the end of the year. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you. Are you guys we could do it quick. Do you guys want to do your image top 10 number 4s?
Yeah, let's knock it out. I got the image on the screen already. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Look at that production.
Yeah, let's do that.
Number
Yo,
4?
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go too. I stay ready.
All right, so go. One of you guys who are
I'm gonna
to
talk about a book that never finished.
Yes.
So number 4 on my list is Southern Bastards by the two Jasons, Jason Aaron, Jason Latour. Southern Bastards was my favorite Jason Aaron book at the time. It is a small Southern tale. I think it is Alabama. I don't know the exact state it's in, but it's in a southern U.S. state that deals with two warring towns and their football teams, and how the football teams are essentially gangs. And it's about a little bit of like a gun trafficking. There's crime in this. It's almost if The Wire. That's a little too much. Maybe okay. The Wire meets True Blood, if that makes sense. Without the mystical element of it, everyone's kind of like a scumbag Southern person, and it was Jason Aaron's kind of love letter to where he grew up. In a most complex way possible, because he recognized, there are things I love about this place, and there are things that are horrible about it, and I'm going to talk about both. And I loved Southern Bastards. I don't think it fully finished. There were some things that came out about the artist, so it never finished, and I don't think it ever will, which is kind of a shame. But man, I have like 2 Southern Bastards T-shirts. I loved the book. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun in my eyes.
Awesome. I didn't know a single thing about it, so thank you for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've heard
Marco?
good things. Yeah, my number 4 is a book called Material. This is by Alesh Kott, and Will Tempest.
Yeah.
Letters by Clayton Cowell and Tom Muller's on all of the cover designs. So like where I first came into contact with that creator, it is a dense, sometimes obtuse book. It's a 4-issue mini. This was meant to be, go longer, but essentially what Alesh does here is talk about current issues going on in what he feels like are relevant or material to your day-to-day life, or will at some point become material to your day-to-day life. 4 intertwining stories told between like 2 pages, interspliced every 2 pages or every 4 pages, depending on what you're trying to say. A philosophy professor, a kind of washed out actress, somebody who just comes out of Guantanamo as a prisoner of war, and then somebody who gets caught up in the burgeoning like revolution in Chicago. So very heady. There's references to all types of books in the margins of all the gutters, almost on every page, to music, to certain short stories, to different kinds of text, to things that he was reading at the time to be able to communicate something larger to you. And so if you take the time to listen to like a song while you're reading a page, sometimes that's something you could even do. Read a supplemental book about, I don't know, nightingales for some reason, but that adds to something that he wrote down on that page. Highly recommend if you're looking for something that is beats over your head as a challenge. It is not light reading by any means, but I think it's really rewarding.
Yeah, Zero is one I thought about for Alice Cott's other Image book.
That's one of his other ones,
I've
yeah.
not read Material.
I've not read Zero.
I recommend his Secret Avengers too. It's one of my favorite runs.
I've heard good things. Yeah, I've heard of good things as Cott as a writer.
Yeah, I think he just went to the woods one day and just hasn't come back.
He like quit after he quit after a while.
My number 4 is Kill or Be Killed. This is by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. I love their collaborations, as I'm sure most of you do. This is my favorite of them all because it takes the elements that they play with so often, flawed people making decisions that are clearly wrong, but you understand the motivations, and just digging in on them. A very human look, while dealing with something that, almost feels more like it belongs in Marvel, where it's a guy who decides that, he's sick of the bullshit and he's not going to be a pawn anymore. He's not going to be afraid of walking the streets of New York and worrying about getting robbed or beaten up. He wants to take action and he wants to take control of his own life. And so, inspired by this demon that may or may not be speaking with him, he becomes a vigilante. And it's presented as plainly, in the sense that it is very grounded and ground level. It's not super heroics. It's what if there was a regular everyday guy running around in the streets doing vigilante shit. It's phenomenal. It asks all the right questions that stir my brain about what is a righteous killing. Is there such a thing as a righteous murder or righteous vengeance? Are those real? And what does it look like to take the power back in your own life? And how much of that is too much? And how far can you take that before you're just wrong? It deals with a lot of that stuff that I think about, and it's a tremendous book. I don't know how many people have attached themselves to it or sought it out. I don't know how popular it is, but if you've never read it, I truly believe it stands toe to toe with all the other Brubaker Phillips classics that you think of. I think of this.
Dude, once you mentioned it, I was like, man, I got to rethink my list. I love Kill or Be Killed. It's funny. I have a short box in my living room that's in a shelf, and the opening in the long box is a short box, that little oval. Yeah. I can see an issue of Kill or Be Killed, and I just noticed it yesterday too. And I was like, oh, great book.
I gotta get that collected. I don't have it collected.
There was a point in Image where I was like, oh, Brubaker and Phillips doing a book? Okay, I don't care what it is.
Exactly, yes.
Honestly, I'm still that way.
I don't know why I'm not that way anymore.
Easily.
I
Fade
think
Out was the first.
Oh, Fade Out. Oh, fuck. My list is fucked.
I think it's because they started to put out their work in graphic novel form, like collected straight
Later.
away.
Yeah.
And I rarely get behind that. I don't know what it is. I bought one that they did, which was we did it for a book
We did
club.
book
What was
club,
that
yeah.
one?
The horse one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it,
Yeah.
but normally I don't get behind that type of stuff. So, but in any event, Killer Be Killed, great comic. Go pick it up if you have not. James says my favorite Image comic is Invincible. I like the story, but wish the art was a bit better. Oh wow, I've never heard anybody call Ryan Otley's art into question.
Or even, who was the original artist?
Cory Walker.
Cory Walker.
Yeah, Cory Walker. Yeah, that's okay. Wait, he does say he likes the art on Savage Dragon and Spawn better, which okay, yeah, it's taste. It's different flavors.
You got more Invincible coming, so.
But what like are you talking about? Spawn in general, because a lot of people have drawn Spawn.
Yeah.
So like, what are you talking about, McFarlane? Because I get that. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. No, Pulp, Sean.
Pulp, yes.
Pulp, yeah. There you go. Comics are dope. What's up, dude? Says so late to this stream. I'll watch the replay for the interview, but had to say hi. Well, hello to you. Hope your move is going well.
Yeah, congrats, dude. You're allowed to be late for what you're doing.
Indeed. Yeah. Marley says, whenever I see a Killer Be Killed Volume 1 at a half price books, I want to gift it to someone to get them hooked on comics. Hell yeah.
I've bought it. It doesn't count because it's not 2010s, but Zoe Thorogood's So Is Lonely at the Center of the Earth. I've bought probably a half dozen times at this point just to give to people.
Yeah, gifting out, right?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, you want to get a little fucked up? Here, have this
cry
one.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolute Thinker says, I absolutely love Noctera. To be fair, it's the only Image I've read other than Ghost Machine. That started out very strong, and I dropped it at around like I was in there. I was like at least issue 19.
It's the Scott Snyder one, right?
Yeah, the Snyder one and
Tony Daniels,
yes, that's right. I was having a lot of fun with that. Damn, I gotta go back to that.
James says Sean just added another book for me to go get. Yeah, go get that. Go get it. It's great. Spiral Storm says my favorite Image thing is Velvet. Think that's 2010. Velvet is fucking fire. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh. That could have just as well. It could have just as easily been on my list. It's not, but it could have been. I loved that series. Damn, that was good. Steve Matthews says, Sean recently turned me on to Kaya, and I'm loving it. That's awesome. Yes, that's what I want. We got to get Wes Craig on here. He's a great guy. I've interviewed him a handful of times, and I would love to have him on the show proper.
Yeah, Wes Craig is real chill. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get out of here. It's been a pleasure, as ever. Thank you for joining us. We've only got two main shows left in the year. So we're gonna be ending things in a very fun fashion. The final main show of the year is going to be the Pallies. That is our award show for comics and comics adjacent, media like comic book movies, comic book TV shows, and that jazz. If you've never seen it before, I promise you will want to be there live. It's gonna be fucking fun. Guaranteed.
Contentious too. I should probably start prepping for that because those are usually a pain in the ass to put together graphics wise. But we'll talk about that.
We have this is the 14th. We have 2 more weeks though, right?
Yeah. So next week will probably just be a normal week of the show, and then after that, the one between Christmas and New Year's.
Well, we need to do our 3, 2, and 1 then.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We're gonna do 3 and 2 next week. You guys act like I don't do this every 52 weeks of the year. I got plans. You don't need to worry about that shit. I know what I'm doing. Come on now.
Sit there and be pretty, Marco.
I just wanted to talk about number 3. That's all it was.
Yeah, next week.
Keep it in your
Next week. Atomic Hound Craven is
in consideration for an award, but it's not a Pally, it's a Razzie.
Yeah, for real.
It's a big old fart.
I literally bought a ticket. Then I saw a shot on Twitter from the movie that annoyed me so much I refunded my ticket.
Wait, that's out yesterday.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not doing well.
No, indeed. And maybe next week we'll talk about that. Maybe next week we'll talk about the Sony universe of Marvel characters. I'm dying to. We'll see. I don't know. But what I do know is that we're thankful for you all. We love you all. And we will see you all next Thursday for Pals Pulls. Can't wait for that. Monday, Pals Previews. Definitely tune in for that. That's how we're going to let you know what we'll be reviewing on Pals Pulls. So hope to see you there for another week of Comics Pals goodness. Thank you for joining us.